What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. The must-see moment when everything will change for Liam plus Brooke's romantic choice pushes Ridge to take action. In the most recent preview for Bold and Beautiful, it appears as though the conflict that Ridge, Brooke and Nick are having in Italy is about to explode. In addition, we must discuss the crazy Luna situation, and Liam is about to experience a significant health shock. Not only did Liam miraculously survive a chest shot, but he also battled brain cancer and a tumor that was thought to be inoperable. But after Dollar Bill footed the hefty bill for the complex surgery, Liam pulled through. But Finn was surprised to find that the incision from his brain surgery was almost invisible, and he started to doubt his miraculous recovery. Grace begs Finn to keep her secret, but he forces her to reveal the truth to Liam and Hope. Are all Buckingham's con artists at this point? Sheila Eight Toes couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right with Lee and the fact that no one was at Luna's quick funeral. That's when we found out Lee was keeping Luna, who was still alive but in a coma, hidden. Despite the fact that Luna is still unconscious, Lee declares that her irrational daughter will survive. Brooke was hoping to see Ridge again while she was in Italy, but Nick won her over, much to Eric's dismay. Recently, the older Forster has become Brooke and Ridge's biggest cheerleader. Ridge refuses to listen to the older Forster's Brooke is so beautiful, she's your destiny date. Chance. Once in Capri, Brooke realized it was all too hard to be there given the memories the place held for her and Ridge. Despite Ridge's pleas for her to remain, she wanted to leave. She then made a promise to run away with Nick and forget Ridge ever existed. Nick has a ring and is planning to propose. Eric warns his son. Ridge rushes to stop the proposal because he always wants the woman he can't have. However, he finds Brooke lounging on the back of a speedboat that Nick is driving. When that happens, everything goes to hell. Are they going to crash or barely escape Capri? In a stunning culmination of heartbreak, deception, and emotional implosion, The Bold and the Beautiful delivers one of its most explosive storylines yet as the tension in Italy unravels into utter chaos, exposing secrets, reigniting old flames, and possibly redefining the future for Liam Spencer, Brooke Logan, Ridge Forrester, and Nick Marone. It all begins with the scene every fan is talking about, the moment Liam, who survived a life-threatening gunshot to the chest and a miraculous recovery from what was believed to be an inoperable brain tumor, is blindsided not just by residual health issues, but by a devastating truth long buried by Dr. Grace Buckingham. The so-called recovery of Liam was a fabrication, a con concocted out of desperation and disguised as medical legitimacy. For weeks, there had been murmurs and doubts. Finn had quietly questioned the surgical scars that didn't match the gravity of the claimed operation, and Bridget Forrester noticed inconsistencies in the scans. But the facade finally fell apart when Finn confronted Grace Buckingham, his patience worn thin and his instincts screaming betrayal. In a hushed, breathless confrontation at the hospital, Grace begged Finn to remain silent, to protect her secret just a little longer, insisting that she never intended harm and only did what she did to escape a web of personal debt and threats. However, Finn refused to be complicit, already disillusioned by Grace's history of lies. He could not do it because he was a doctor. Dragging Grace by the arm, he took her straight to the Spencer estate, where Liam was recovering with Hope by his side. The next thing was a moment from a soap opera that froze time, a moment of reckoning, and a truth bomb that had the power to destroy families. Grace confessed everything. There was no inoperable tumor, no miracle surgery, and the money Bill Spencer paid was funneled into a desperate debt settlement. Liam and Hope sat motionless, wide-eyed, as Grace detailed the scam, and Finn stood grimly behind her, ready to answer for the deception. At first, Liam was silent. He was physically and emotionally empty after surviving a shooting, reconciling with his family, and now realizing he had been a pawn in someone else's plan. The pivotal moment that changed everything for Liam was not only about health, it was also about trust. How could he ever believe anything again? Could he trust his doctors? His own intuitions? Who said they were looking out for his best interests? However, Ridge Forrester finds himself engaged in a different kind of conflict, one for Brooke Logan's heart, in Italy as the truth dawns on Liam. Ridge has always been a man who operates on impulse and ego, loving deeply but inconsistently, often confusing passion with possession. Brooke, exhausted by decades of emotional back and forth, has had enough. Her trip to Capri was supposed to bring her peace and, possibly, closure. She arrived intending to enjoy the fashion show, take in the Italian breeze, and reflect on her past, not be dragged into another tug-of-war between two men. And yet, it happened. Ridge showed up unannounced, and his father Eric and the constant cheerleader for Brooke Ridge were trying to get him to do something big again and fight for Brooke before it's too late. But Brooke turned down both of their requests because she was emotionally exhausted and sick of being Ridge's backup girl. The memories of Italy with Ridge were too sharp, too painful. She wanted a clean break. That's when she ran to Nick Marone, the man who once offered her something different, something less complicated. Nick, ever the opportunist with a heart, was already planning a romantic surprise, a proposal on the water. He had the ring. The yacht was his. He knew when to act. And Brooke gave it some serious thought for a brief moment, not because she didn't love Ridge, but rather because she loved herself more than she had in a long time. She deserved regularity. She deserved peace. However, Eric learned of Nick's strategy back at the hotel. After spotting the ring and connecting the dots, Eric rushed to Ridge in a panic. Eric yelled in surprise as he proposed. "Ridge, you have to stop it. You fight because you love her." Fueled by panic and possessive desperation, Ridge dashed to the marina, only to arrive seconds too late. Brooke and Nick had already set off on the boat, Brooke lying on the sunpad, her golden hair catching the wind, her eyes closed in bittersweet reflection. In an effort to impress Brooke with the speed and freedom of the open sea, Nick accelerated the boat without realizing the emotional storm that was developing behind them. But just as they pulled into the deeper waters near Capri, everything changed. Whether it was a mechanical error, reckless steering, or simply fate, Brooke lost her balance. The amusing escape turned into a crisis when her body slipped and fell into the ocean. Ridge yelled her name, Brooke, from the dock. Before actually doing so, his instincts taking precedence over reason. He swam to her with urgency, wrapping his arms around her just as she began to flail. It was the most dramatic of rescues, and when they reached the shoreline, coughing and soaked, it was clear something had shifted. With a complex mix of fear, relief, and reluctant longing, Brooke looked into Ridge's eyes. Was this the man who always saved her at the last minute, or the man who always let her fall until the last minute? Meanwhile, as chaos unfolded in Italy, more madness was brewing in Los Angeles. Sheila Carter became suspicious about the rumored funeral for Luna Nozawa, who was still hidden in the Forrester circle. Something didn't sit right. Luna was too fiery, young, and vital to be buried and lost so quickly. And Sheila was correct with her infamous sixth sense. Lee Finnegan had secretly hidden Luna, who was in a coma, away from public eyes. Lee was determined to bring Luna back to life, back to common sense, and back to some form of family honor after declaring her daughter to be irrational but redeemable. Lee sat by her daughter's bedside in a private hospital room, whispering promises and urging her daughter not to die or vanish like a bad dream. On The Bold and the Beautiful, redemption arcs are hard to come by, and Lee's is no exception. Her decision to keep Luna's survival a secret has already fractured relationships, and when the truth comes out, because it always does, Lee may have more enemies than allies left. Back in Capri, after the dramatic rescue, Ridge and Brooke sat wrapped in towels on the harbor rocks, letting the sun dry their clothes and warm their thoughts. Nick, feeling shame and guilt, stayed on the boat and watched from a distance. Ridge whispered, "I came for you," as he turned to Brooke. "I'll always come for you." Shaken, Brooke delayed her response. Her tears were not triggered by fear, but rather by years of layered grief, confusion, and yearning. "You always come too late, Ridge," she replied. "Why is it always when I'm about to move on that you suddenly remember you love me?" Ridge did not have a response. He never does, not one that matters. That's when Brooke got up, took off the ring Nick had left on her before the accident, and put it on Ridge's stone. She stated, "I don't belong to either of you right now. I belong to myself." It was a breathtaking moment of self-empowerment, rare in a soap opera world built on love triangles and paternity twists.